No matter what you want in life, your brain will keep you from getting it. And it's all because it wants to keep you alive. It sounds fake, doesn't it? It's true, and science explains all of it. Let me know if this sounds familiar. You crush your weight loss journey for weeks, clean eating, daily walks, perfect sleep schedule. Then suddenly, one cheat day becomes a week long pizza fest. The rainy morning becomes your permanent excuse to stop walking every day. And before you know it, you're back at square one. This pattern doesn't just show up in health and fitness, it shows up in every area of life where you try to make meaningful change. Today, I'm going to share something that changed everything for me and thousands of other people, those that discover it. It's a psychological breakthrough that explains why willpower fails and what actually works instead. If you're tired of starting over, this video will be the most important thing you watch this month. The problem with making lasting change is that your mind is programmed to stop you. You heard me right. The cycle of progress and regression is a neurological process, not a willpower problem. Think about it. How many times have you blamed yourself for not wanting it enough when you fell off track? You've been taught that success is about discipline and sacrifice, but science says something completely different. Your brain is programmed to keep you alive. That is priority number one. And to keep you alive, it employs a process called homeostasis. It's not trying to sabotage your goals, but that's what ends up happening. I'll explain how this works for goals soon. Homeostasis is your body's way of maintaining balance. Your temperature stays between 97 and 99 degrees. Your blood pressure remains stable, fluctuating when you stand up and lie down and quickly returning to normal. Your glucose levels stay within a narrow range. When sugar spikes, your pancreas releases insulin to bring it back down, and when it gets too low, your muscles release glycogen to bring it back up. This is the miracle that keeps you alive. But this same mechanism becomes your worst enemy when you're trying to change for the better. Every time you push for improvement, your brain activates powerful systems to pull you back to your comfort zone. This is why diets fail, why businesses plateau, and why relationships cycle through the same problems. Your brain has a set point it considers normal, and it fights intensely to maintain it. You won't believe how this was proved in a real world experiment. In 1979, researchers took a group of men in their 70s. Most struggled with the typical stiffness and frailty of being older, and placed them in an environment that was meticulously designed to simulate their life 20 years before in 1959. The radios played Perry Como, the TVs showed all the favorite black and white programs, and vintage magazines were littered around the table. But here is the crucial part. The men were never told to pretend or act younger. They were instructed to immerse themselves completely as if they actually were their younger selves. Within just 1 week, these men exhibited remarkable physical changes that defied conventional medical understanding. Their posture improved, their joint flexibility increased, their grip strength measured stronger, their cognitive performance improved on several tests. Their vision even showed measurable improvement. The most compelling evidence came from the before and after photos they showed to independent observers, who consistently identified the after photos as the younger versions of these men. These weren't just psychological changes. Their bodies physically responded to their new mental framework. It wasn't about pretending, it was about genuinely believing they were different people. Every successful change must first cross what psychologists call threshold. Before any transformation begins, you must reach the point where your desire for change exceeds your attachment to comfort. Many smokers say they want to quit, but they still value smoking more than the freedom from the addiction. This means they haven't hit threshold. Threshold isn't even an intellectual decision. It's an emotional tipping point where action becomes inevitable. When you cross threshold, you take the necessary actions to change on autopilot. There's a typical period of struggle where your body and mind adjust. followed by a transition where your new normal starts to feel good. But the problem isn't reaching threshold. It's what happens after your initial success. This is exactly when your brain activates its most devious defense mechanisms. The voice that says, "You can take it easy. Look how far you've come. One cigarette won't hurt. That piece of cake won't derail all of your progress." This is not random self sabotage. It's your brain executing specific neurological functions designed to protect your established patterns. The technical term for this is a negative feedback loop. Your brain and body operate through sophisticated feedback loops that constantly maintain balance or homeostasis. The most familiar example is your home thermostat. When your house gets too warm, the AC kicks in to cool it down. When it gets too cold, the heater activates to warm it up, always maintaining this equilibrium. Your behaviors, your habits, and even your identity are governed by the same principles. When you make positive changes, your neurochemistry temporarily shifts, but your brain has a baseline that it's used to operating at, your neurological set point. Just like your thermostat, your brain will fight aggressively to return to that familiar territory. This explains why dramatic life changes often boomerang back to the starting point. Think of lottery winners that end up broke within just a couple of years. The same thing with successful business people. You might see them go bankrupt only to start another business and make it all back again. People lose 20 pounds only to gain back 25. These actually aren't failures of character. They're good examples of your brain's negative feedback systems restoring equilibrium. If you view this in light of another powerful concept, your failure begins to make complete sense. The concept is called the hedonic treadmill. The hedonic treadmill explains why satisfaction is always temporary, regardless of how much you achieve. This psychological principle reveals why you're never content no matter how much you acquire. If you get a raise, your standard of living increases to match it, and soon the higher income feels exactly like your old one. You buy your dream car, the excitement fades within a couple of weeks. Your brain rapidly normalizes the changes in your life, both positive and negative, making them your new baseline. The amount you're content with constantly shifts. Once an improvement starts to feel significant, before your subconscious mind has the time to create a new baseline, you take it for granted, and your brain's negative feedback loop activates to bring you back to what feels familiar. Now, what I'm about to tell you can stop this cycle forever. You can change anything you want at any time permanently. What you don't realize is that your brain's set point is not determined by your behavior. It's determined by your identity. This reveals a massive leverage point. The elderly man in the experiment from 1979 didn't just act younger, they literally became younger because they genuinely believed they were different people in a different time, themselves from 20 years ago. Their minds went back in time 20 years and it took the body with them. Their core identity shifted and their physiology followed. The key to permanent change isn't willpower, it's identity transformation. Basically, you can brainwash yourself into making permanent change in only minutes a day. When I discovered this research, it revolutionized my approach to transformation. And I realized I'm not fighting against my discipline or my motivation or my willpower. I'm fighting against neurological set points determined by my identity. Your brain is constantly working to align your behaviors with your self-image or your identity. This is the true homeostasis, not your weight or your exercise habits or your bank account balance. It's your identity. If you see yourself as someone trying to lose weight, your brain recognizes this as a temporary state and will eventually restore equilibrium. But if you genuinely become a health conscious person or an athlete, your brain now works to maintain behaviors that match this identity. The neurological impact of identity-based change creates a new homeostasis that works in your favor. You're not quitting smoking. You're a non-smoker. See the difference there? You're not trying to save money. You're financially disciplined. You're not working on being more organized. You are a structured, systematic person. It's not semantics, it's neurobiology. When you genuinely adopt a new identity, your brain establishes a new baseline, and the negative feedback loop now pulls you towards behaviors that align with who you believe yourself to be. Identity transformation requires 3 specific steps that can rewire your neural patterns. First, clearly define who you need to become in order to achieve your goals. Be very specific and write it down. Don't skip this step. I am the kind of person who prioritizes health over temporary pleasure. Or I am someone who follows through on commitments. Always state these goals in the positive. Language programs your brain, so how you label yourself matters tremendously. Second, speak this identity out loud to yourself daily. Put it on sticky notes where you'll see them all the time. Tell your friends and family. Make these identity statements part of your daily routine until they feel natural and true. It won't take very long. Small identity-aligned actions also build neurological evidence that reinforces your new self-concept. This is number 3. Act in alignment with this identity in small ways every single day. They don't need to be big dramatic things like running a marathon or doing 1,000 push-ups. In fact, consistency matters far more than intensity. Every tiny action that aligns with your new identity strengthens the neural pathways that support it. This identity-based approach transforms results across any area of life. It'll work for anything. I have a friend who struggled with weight loss for years, and when I educated her on how her identity influences her behavior, she shifted from trying to lose weight to I'm an athlete in training. Everything changed. She began making decisions not based on calorie or appearance or pant size, but on what would enhance her athletic performance. Within a year, she completed her first half marathon, which is something she never even imagined was possible. The most powerful transformations happen when the identity shift comes before the behavior change. One of my clients struggled with chronic procrastination in his business. Rather than focusing on productivity techniques, we worked on shifting his identity from struggling entrepreneur to decisive business owner. This subtle but profound shift changed how he approached every decision, and his business grew over 200% the very next year. You see, your brain will always fight to maintain equilibrium with your identity at the center. The elderly men in the 1979 experiment didn't just pretend to be younger. They became younger because they fully embodied a different identity. And you can use the same principle to become someone who naturally achieves your goals without the constant struggle. Your results aren't determined by what you do, they're determined by who you are. Change who you believe yourself to be, and everything else will follow. If this approach resonates with you, take a moment right now to write down the identity you need to embrace, and then commit to living as that person starting today. Thanks for watching. Go and be great.